Imagine waking up in a village where temperatures have been associated with an unbelievable -71 degrees Celsius, nearly -96 Fahrenheit. A place where winter reshapes cars, water, food, and everyday life. Yet people still live here year-round. Welcome to Oymyakon, one of the coldest permanently inhabited places on Earth. People really live where temperatures fell to nearly -68 degrees Celsius. In eastern Siberia, in Russia's Sakha Republic, lies Oymyakon, a settlement famous for cold that sounds almost unreal. This is not an abandoned research station. It is a living community where families have built homes, raised children, worked, and adapted to winters that push everyday life to extraordinary limits. According to the World Meteorological Organization, Oymyakon recorded -67.8 degrees Celsius, about -90 degrees Fahrenheit, in 1933. Oymyakon remains remarkable because people live there year-round. You may also hear the dramatic figure of -71.2 degrees Celsius, roughly -96 degrees Fahrenheit. That number is famously associated with Oymyakon and appears on a local monument, but it is generally treated as an unofficial historical estimate rather than the recognized instrumental record. As of 2026, the WMO record for Oymyakon remains just under -68 degrees Celsius. Why does it get so cold? Geography is part of the answer. Oymyakon sits in an inland valley surrounded by mountains. During long, clear winter nights, dense cold air sinks into the valley and can remain trapped near the ground. Combine that with Siberia's continental climate, its distance from the moderating influence of oceans, and short winter daylight, and the landscape becomes a natural freezer. But the most surprising fact is not the thermometer. It is that life continues. Homes must stay warm. Food must be stored. Transportation must function. And families still follow daily routines. In Oymyakon, extreme cold is not a television experiment or a weekend challenge. It is simply part of life. And that leads to the next mystery. When temperatures fall this low, how do people keep their cars working at all? Even cars have to fight to survive the winter. In most places, parking a car is simple. You turn off the engine, lock the doors, and walk away. In Oymyakon, during the most extreme winter cold, that ordinary routine can become a serious problem. When temperatures sink toward -50 degrees Celsius, and sometimes even lower, a vehicle left outside can become extremely difficult to restart. Engine oil thickens in severe cold, batteries lose performance, and mechanical components are placed under enormous stress. Transportation, something most of us barely think about, becomes another part of adapting to the environment. That is why drivers across this extremely cold region use unusual strategies. When a vehicle must remain outside during severe conditions, some drivers keep the engine running for extended periods rather than risk a difficult cold start. Others protect their vehicles in heated garages whenever possible. Reports from Yakutia have documented both practices, and there is a good reason to take the problem seriously. Oymyakon is extremely remote. Yakutsk, the nearest major city, is roughly 576 miles away by road, according to an account of a journey to the village. In this environment, dependable transportation is far more than a convenience. Even a short trip requires planning. Drivers have to think about the weather, the condition of the vehicle, and how long it may remain exposed to extreme temperatures. What would be a minor mechanical inconvenience somewhere else can become a major logistical problem here. Yet this is what makes Oymyakon fascinating. Residents have learned to organize ordinary technology around extraordinary conditions. The automobile was never designed specifically for one of Earth's coldest inhabited settlements, so people adapt how they use it. But cars are only the beginning. There is something even more fundamental that extreme cold can complicate: water itself. And in Oymyakon, getting water into a home can be very different from simply turning on a faucet. When water pipes become a problem. In almost any modern home, getting water is effortless. Turn a faucet, and water appears. But in Oymyakon, the ground beneath your feet creates a completely different challenge. Much of this region is built on permafrost, ground that remains frozen for at least 2 consecutive years, and, in parts of Yakutia, can extend hundreds of meters below the surface. That makes ordinary underground infrastructure much harder to build and maintain. During an Oymyakon winter, temperatures commonly fall far below -40 degrees Celsius. Pipes exposed to such extreme conditions can freeze, while burying infrastructure underground is complicated by permanently frozen soil. As a result, some homes rely on water storage and delivery systems rather than the kind of underground plumbing network familiar in warmer cities. Water may be transported and stored for household use, making something as ordinary as washing, cooking, or cleaning require more planning. Traditional outdoor toilets have also been widely documented in the village, another striking example of how infrastructure has adapted to the climate. Heating, meanwhile, is essential. Homes must remain warm while the world outside can stay below freezing for months. Buildings are heavily insulated, and heating systems operate through the long Siberian winter. Losing reliable heat during severe cold is not simply uncomfortable. It can quickly create serious problems for a home and its water systems. There is another challenge hidden beneath the buildings themselves. Permafrost can change when heat from structures reaches the frozen ground. Across cold regions, engineers therefore use construction techniques designed to reduce heat transfer and protect foundations. This is what makes everyday life in Oymyakon so remarkable. The environment changes the basic rules of civilization. Water, plumbing, heating, and even the ground supporting a house require solutions shaped by extreme cold. Nature becomes a giant freezer. Imagine walking through an outdoor market where fish are standing upright like pieces of wood, completely frozen without a single electric freezer in sight. In Yakutia, this is not a movie set. During the depths of winter, the air itself can become colder than a typical household freezer. A standard home freezer is usually kept at around 0 degrees Fahrenheit, or -18 degrees Celsius. But winter temperatures around Oymyakon can plunge below -50 degrees Celsius. Under those conditions, freshly caught fish can freeze naturally outdoors and remain solid in the bitter Siberian air. Fish has long been an important part of food culture across the Sakha Republic. Rivers and lakes provide species adapted to northern waters, and freezing became a practical method of preservation long before modern refrigeration reached remote communities. One of the region's most famous traditional foods is stroganina. It is made from deeply frozen raw fish, traditionally sliced into thin curls or strips while still frozen. Fish such as whitefish are commonly used, and the dish is usually served immediately so the pieces remain firm and cold. The result is one of Yakutia's most distinctive culinary traditions, shaped directly by its environment. What began as a practical way of handling food in an extreme climate became part of the region's cultural identity. The cold also changes the appearance of local markets. In winter photographs from Yakutia, entire fish can be displayed outdoors frozen solid. There is little need for refrigerated display cases when the surrounding air may be tens of degrees colder than a freezer. But this does not mean people can simply leave every kind of food outside without thought. Food safety still matters, and temperatures can change. The remarkable point is how generations of residents learned to use their climate as part of everyday food storage and preparation. In Oymyakon, winter does not merely create obstacles. Sometimes, people turn it into a tool. The extraordinary horses that survive the Siberian winter. Across the frozen landscapes of Yakutia lives an animal that seems almost perfectly designed for this environment, the Yakut horse. While many domestic horses depend heavily on shelter and prepared feed during harsh winters, these compact Siberian horses have developed remarkable adaptations to life in extreme cold. Yakut horses are relatively short and stocky, with thick winter coats that provide powerful insulation. During the cold season, their hair becomes dramatically longer and denser, helping them conserve body heat when temperatures fall far below freezing. But their appearance is only part of the story. Scientific research has found that Yakut horses developed important physiological and metabolic adaptations associated with cold tolerance. Remarkably, genetic studies suggest that the modern Yakut horse population adapted to the severe Siberian environment over a relatively short evolutionary period after horses were introduced into the region centuries ago. Their behavior is equally fascinating. During winter, Yakut horses can remain outdoors and search for food beneath the snow. Using their hooves, they scrape through the frozen surface to reach grasses and vegetation hidden underneath. This traditional feeding behavior allows herds to use natural pasture even when the landscape appears completely buried. Their bodies also prepare for winter by building substantial fat reserves during warmer months. Combined with their compact shape and dense coat, these reserves help them conserve energy through the long cold season. For local Sakha communities, these horses are more than biological curiosities. They have been connected to transportation, food production, rural livelihoods, and regional culture for generations. By 2026, the Yakut horse remains one of the clearest examples of how animals can adapt to an environment that appears almost impossible to outsiders. Children still go to school in extreme cold. For most students around the world, waking up to heavy snow might mean hoping for a day off. In Oymyakon, snow and extreme cold are simply part of the school year. During winter, children can begin their morning while temperatures outside are far below -40 degrees Celsius. They dress in multiple insulating layers covering exposed skin as much as possible before traveling through the frozen village. Heavy coats, winter boots, hats, scarves, and thick gloves are basic equipment for daily life here. But one detail has repeatedly surprised visitors. Schools in this region do not necessarily close just because temperatures would be considered extreme almost anywhere else. Local closure rules can depend on factors including temperature, wind, and the age of the students. Reports from Oymyakon have described younger students staying home when temperatures approach roughly -50 degrees Celsius, while older students may continue attending under conditions that would shut down schools in many other parts of the world. That does not mean residents treat the cold casually. Extreme temperatures require preparation, appropriate clothing, reliable heating, and careful decisions about outdoor exposure. What looks extraordinary to an outsider is supported by generations of experience living in this climate. Inside the school, however, life becomes surprisingly familiar. Students study subjects such as mathematics, languages, science, and history in heated classrooms. They talk with friends, complete assignments, and follow routines recognizable to students thousands of miles away. That contrast may be one of the most fascinating things about Oymyakon. Outside the windows lies one of the coldest inhabited environments on Earth. Inside, there are notebooks, lessons, teachers, and ordinary school days. By 2026, Oymyakon continues to symbolize something larger than extreme temperature records. A community that has organized everyday life around conditions most people will never experience. The coldest village has a name connected to unfrozen water. There is a strange irony hidden in the name Oymyakon. This settlement became famous around the world for extraordinary winter cold. Yet its name is commonly translated or interpreted as something close to unfrozen water, or water that does not freeze. So how did one of the coldest inhabited places on Earth receive a name associated with liquid water? The answer is connected to the landscape. Despite the brutal climate and permanently frozen ground found across the region, Oymyakon is associated with a natural spring that does not completely freeze during winter. The name is generally traced to the Ivan language, spoken by indigenous people of northeastern Siberia, although English translations and explanations of its precise meaning can vary between sources. Long before Oymyakon became internationally famous as a symbol of extreme cold, the area was connected to nomadic reindeer herders. Historical accounts describe herders stopping near the relatively warmer spring so their animals could drink. In a landscape dominated by ice and snow for much of the year, access to flowing water made the location unusually valuable. Over time, permanent settlement developed in the region. During the Soviet period, policies encouraging nomadic communities to settle contributed to Oymyakon becoming the village recognizable today. The contradiction is remarkable. Around you, winter temperatures can fall below -50 degrees Celsius. Rivers, roads, buildings, and forests can appear locked in ice. Yet the identity of the village itself is linked to a place where water resisted completely freezing. It is a reminder that Oymyakon is more than a temperature record. Its history was shaped by indigenous cultures, migration, geography, animals, and the unusual natural features that made human life possible in this remote corner of Siberia. But perhaps the biggest misconception about Oymyakon is that it remains frozen all year. It does not. The coldest village can become surprisingly hot. When you hear the name Oymyakon, you probably imagine endless snow, frozen roads, and a landscape trapped in winter forever. But one of the strangest facts about this village is that the extreme cold does not last all year. Summer can completely transform Oymyakon. The snow retreats, rivers flow freely, vegetation turns green, and the frozen landscape suddenly looks almost unrecognizable. During June, July, and August, daytime temperatures can rise above 30 degrees Celsius. That is already surprising for a place famous as one of the coldest permanently inhabited settlements on Earth. But the temperature record is even more astonishing. On July 28, 2010, Oymyakon recorded approximately 34.6 degrees Celsius, or about 94 degrees Fahrenheit. Compare that with its recognized winter minimum of roughly -67.7 degrees Celsius, and the difference between the village's recorded extremes exceeds 102 degrees Celsius. Few inhabited places experience such an enormous temperature range. The reason is strongly connected to Oymyakon's geography. It lies deep inside the enormous Eurasian landmass, far from oceans that normally help moderate temperatures. During winter, long nights and trapped cold air help create exceptionally low temperatures. In summer, however, long daylight hours and continental heating can push temperatures dramatically upward. The contrast changes daily life as well. Heavy winter clothing disappears. Roads and rivers thaw. Plants grow rapidly during the short warm season. And residents take advantage of months when simply being outdoors becomes much easier. By 2026, this enormous seasonal contrast remains one of Oymyakon's most fascinating characteristics. A village known worldwide for temperatures approaching -70 degrees Celsius can, months later, experience summer heat above 30 degrees. Getting to Oymyakon is an adventure of its own. Oymyakon may be famous for its extreme temperatures, but surviving the cold is only part of the story. Before visitors can experience this remote Siberian settlement, they first have to reach it. And that is far more complicated than booking a normal flight. Oymyakon has no major commercial airport serving the village directly. For many journeys, Yakutsk, the capital of the Sakha Republic, becomes the main starting point. From there, reaching the Oymyakon region involves an enormous journey across some of the most isolated terrain in northeastern Russia. Depending on the modern road route, the driving distance between Yakutsk and Oymyakon can exceed 1,200 kilometers. Online route estimates put a continuous drive at around 30 hours, but real travel times can vary considerably with road conditions, weather, stops, and the chosen route. Much of this enormous region is connected by the legendary Kolyma Highway, stretching for more than 2,000 kilometers between the Yakutsk region and Magadan. The road crosses mountains, forests, river valleys, and vast areas where settlements can be separated by extraordinary distances. Its history is also deeply somber. Sections of the Kolyma road network were constructed during the Soviet era using forced labor from Gulag prisoners under brutal conditions. Because many prisoners died during the construction period, the historic route became widely known as the Road of Bones. Today, the transportation network has changed significantly. Routes have been rebuilt or realigned, and travelers in 2026 use roads very different in important respects from those of the early Soviet period, yet the enormous distances and isolation remain. That remoteness helps explain why Oymyakon feels so different from almost anywhere else on Earth. Reaching it means traveling deep into a landscape where nature dominates the horizon and communities become increasingly scattered. Why people still call Oymyakon home. After everything we have seen, one question seems impossible to avoid. Why would anyone choose to live in a place where winter temperatures can fall below -50 degrees Celsius, where the ground remains frozen, and where the nearest major city is an enormous journey away? The answer is surprisingly simple. For the people who live here, Oymyakon is not an extreme survival experiment. It is home. This community is part of the Sakha Republic, a vast region covering more than 3 million square kilometers of northeastern Russia. Despite its enormous size, the republic has a population of only around 1 million people, making much of the territory extraordinarily sparsely populated. Life in Oymyakon has been shaped by generations of adaptation. Residents know how to dress for severe cold, heat their homes, protect transportation, store food, and organize daily routines around the seasons. Practices that appear extraordinary to visitors are simply practical knowledge passed through families and communities. Culture is equally important. The wider region is home to the Sakha people and other indigenous communities whose languages, traditions, food, livestock, and relationships with the northern environment developed over centuries. That perspective changes the way we understand Oymyakon. It would be easy to describe this village only through dramatic temperature records, but doing so misses the most important part of the story. Oymyakon is not remarkable simply because humans can survive here. It is remarkable because people have created ordinary lives in extraordinary conditions. Children attend school. Families gather inside warm homes. People work, travel, celebrate traditions, and prepare for each changing season. When summer arrives, the snow disappears and the same landscape associated with legendary cold becomes green again. As of 2026, Oymyakon remains one of the world's most extraordinary examples of permanent human settlement in an extremely cold environment. Oymyakon reminds us that even in one of the harshest environments on Earth, life finds a way to continue. Here, extreme cold is not just a record, it is part of everyday life. If this journey amazed you, subscribe and join us as we uncover more extraordinary places around the world.